There's a place 7 kilometres south of Paris that is larger than the entire Principality of Monaco. It opens at 3 in the morning, it employs 13,000 people every single day, and it supplies food to 18 million people across the Ile-de-France. And almost nobody who visits Paris knows about it. Today we're talking about one of the most extraordinary places, I think, in the food world. A place that most visitors to Paris never see. It operates while the city sleeps and quietly underpins everything that makes French food culture the envy of the world. We're going back to the beginning, to a medieval market on the Ile de la City that grew over 1,000 years into the legendary Les Halles, the belly of Paris, before the whole extraordinary operation was uprooted in one of the most audacious logistical operations in modern French history, and transplanted 7 kilometres south to the suburbs. We're talking about the move of the century, the scale of what was built, the sectors, the chefs, the buyers, the restaurants that serve steak frites at 4 in the morning, and the tradition of onion soup that survived the journey from the old city and never left. And we're talking about how to visit, because with a brand new metro station and the best access the market has ever had, there's never been a better time to go and see it for yourself. This is Rungis, and it's one of those places that once you know about it, changes how you think about food entirely. To understand Rungis, you first have to understand what came before it. For nearly 1,000 years, the beating heart of Paris's food supply was Les Halles, a sprawling, chaotic, magnificent market right in the centre of the city, just a stone's throw from the Saint-Eustache church in the first arrondissement. It started as a modest market on the Ile de la City, as far back as the 5th century, moved to the covered pavilions in Les Halles in 1181, and by the 19th century it had become something truly extraordinary. Victor Baltard, the architect tasked with reimagining it under Napoleon III, created 10 iconic pavilions of cast iron, brick and glass, and it became one of the great architectural statements of Paris. And Émile Zola, who knew the place intimately, gave it the name that stuck forever, le ventre de Paris, the belly of Paris, because that's exactly what it was, the place where the city fed itself every single night, in a glorious, overwhelming, slightly chaotic symphony of crates and carts, and noise and smells. And what a place it was. Every night, the so-called diables, those who wheeled carts piled high with tomatoes, apples, oranges, and flowers, they rattled through the alleyways between the pavilions. Transactions were settled in cash, often over a glass of Beaujolais and a good plate of food at one of the market's famous all-night restaurants. The onion soup served in the early hours of the morning to market workers, chefs, and the occasional Parisian who had simply stayed out too late became one of the great culinary traditions of the city. It was alive in a way that very few places in any city have ever been alive. Raw and commercial and beautiful all at once. But by the post-war years, Paris had outgrown it entirely. The population of Ile-de-France was growing fast. Demand was diversifying, and 10 hectares in the heart of the city, with no room to expand and increasingly impossible traffic, simply could not keep up. The decision to move was made by Prime Minister Michel Debré in 1959, under de Gaulle, and it was not a popular one. The belly of Paris had an unsuspected gravity, as one account put it at the time, and convincing buyers and wholesalers and an entire city to let it go was almost harder than building the replacement. On February the 28th in 1969, Parisians gathered for the last night of Les Halles. Florists threw sheaves of flowers onto the streets. A brass band played outside Saint-Eustache. People danced around pyramids of vegetable crates, and then it was all over. Les Halles was demolished in 1971 despite petitions, and in its place today you'll find the Forum des Halles shopping centre and one of the busiest metro stations in Europe, which, depending on your feelings about architecture heritage, is either progress or a crime. I want to mention something because if this episode is making you want to get on a plane to Paris, I have something that might help with that. My book, Paris, A Fabulous Food Guide to the World's Most Delicious City, has just been newly updated, and I'm genuinely excited about this new third edition. It's bigger than ever, with more than 100 additional pages on the history of food of Paris. You'll also understand not just where to eat, but why Paris became the gastronomic capital of the world in the first place. Which, if you're a regular listener, you'll know is exactly the kind of thing I love. The story behind the food and not just the food itself. Alongside all my favourite boulangeries, patisseries, fromageries, wine bars, markets, and those hidden gems, the new edition has a dedicated section for vegan and vegetarian dining. Beautiful food with a view options. And because, well, why not, a special section on the locations featured in the Netflix show Emily in Paris. So yes, you can absolutely go and sit where they sat and eat where Emily eats. No judgment here whatsoever. It's the guide I wish I'd had when I first arrived in France, full of personal recommendations, trusted addresses, and the kind of places that make you close your eyes and think of the first bite. Yum. You can order a copy directly from my website at andrewpryorfabulously.com. It makes the perfect gift for the food lover in your life. It's also on Amazon, or you can ask your local independent bookshop to order it in. Supporting local bookshops is always a fabulous idea. Right, now let's go to Rungis. The decision to move Les Halles didn't happen overnight. In fact, French authorities had been trying to relocate the market for nearly a century and a half before they finally managed to do it. The formal decision was made on September the 30th in 1953, when the French government decided to create a network of national interest markets across the country, Paris chief among them. The question then was, well, where? The site needed to be at the crossroads of major road, rail and air routes, with room to grow and easy access for the trucks, the trains and the planes that would supply it. Several locations were considered and eliminated before the government settled on March the 14th in 1960 on the municipalities of Chevilly and Rungis. 7 kilometres south of Paris, close to all the major motorways, with a railway connection and right next to Orly Airport. 600 hectares of agricultural land were designated. 2 declarations of public utility were issued, and on February the 11th in 1964, the first pickaxe went into the ground. What followed was 5 years of construction on a scale that's almost hard to comprehend. 3 million cubic metres of land was levelled. Aqueducts moved, high-voltage power lines reorganised, 25 kilometres of roads built, 35 hectares of car parks laid, 66,500 metres of pipes installed, and 4,500 telephone lines connected. All of that before a single vegetable crate had arrived. And then came the move itself, what was described at the time as the move of the century, and it's hard to argue with that description. Over the weekend of February the 27th to March the 1st in 1969, 1,000 wholesale companies, 20,000 people, 10,000 cubic metres of equipment and 5,000 tonnes of goods made the journey from the centre of Paris to Rungis. In 1,500 trucks, including 400 removal lorries, along roads that were barely adequate for the task. To manage the logistics, a former general from the small cavalry school had been recruited, which tells you everything about the scale of this operation. And the timing could hardly have been more complicated. That same weekend, US President Richard Nixon was visiting Paris. The city was bracing for gridlock, and the ring road wasn't even finished yet. And yet, somehow, almost miraculously, it just worked. Parisians stayed away from the moving routes. The A6 motorway was quieter than anybody had ever seen it. And by the time the market opened its doors on the morning of the March the 3rd in 1969, 1,000 wholesalers were in place and ready for their first customers. There were parties on the trading floor. Television cameras were, well, everywhere. Stars performed on makeshift stages. And somewhere in the middle of all of it, According to a persistent legend that nobody has ever quite managed to disprove, a number of the rats that had called Les Halles home for generations climbed aboard the removal trucks and made their journey too. They were never seen in Rungis, and where they went, well, that remains delightfully a mystery. If you'd like a little more fabulously delicious between episodes, come and join me on Instagram. I'm at Andrew Pryor Fabulously. That's where I share bite-sized French food history, fun facts, behind-the-scenes moments, and plenty of everyday life in France. It's the perfect little snack between podcast courses. And if you prefer to watch the podcast as well as listen, you can find the full video episodes over on YouTube. Same stories, same deliciousness, just with my face attached. More food, more stories, more fabulous. Come join the party. It's très scrollable. Apparently that's something young French people say. Et voila. That's the end of today's episode of Fabulously Delicious, the French Food Podcast. If this episode made you hungry, happy, or suddenly Googling line 14 timetable at 3 a.m, perfect. If you enjoyed it, leave a review, share it with a fellow food lover, and come say bonjour. I always love hearing from you. And if you like this episode, there's plenty more waiting for you. Just search Fabulously Delicious on whatever platform you're listening to right now. Until next time, eat well, stay curious, and whatever you do it fabulously. Merci beaucoup, bon app, et à très bientôt.